Hello again, everyone. Now that we are grounded in scripture and connected via some preliminary introductions, let's dive into our week one overview to get you started on your way. So, right now, we're on the home page of your Canvas classroom. If you scroll down, you can see that our entire course is organized by modules, one for each week. So to get started on week one, you'll just scroll down to our week one module, which again begins on Monday the 14th, and click on week one content. You can see that this week we are going to explore a number of really interesting topics related to developmental theories, developmental periods, learning theories, and a number of issues related to family and culture as well. By the end of this first week together, you will be able to explain development and learning theories as key considerations when we think about student behaviors and classroom management strategies. You'll also be able to describe the impact of cultural, familial, and other factors on student behavior, motivation, and learning. And finally, you'll be able to describe the significance and importance of addressing behavior and motivation on an individual in your classroom as well as school-wide basis across various settings. If you scroll down, we're going to come back to our Christian message. We'll always end with that each week. So if you scroll down to our readings, you'll see that this week you'll be reading McDevitt and Ormrod chapters 1 and 3. And there's also just a very brief one pager, one screener, if you will, since you'll be looking at it on your computer, Google Scholar search tips that can help you just really efficiently, quickly, and easily find what you're looking for if you're looking for scholarly articles in particular to support your work on particular assignments in this class, and also to support your answers to discussion questions when the prompt calls for that. Let's take a look at our discussion questions this week in a little bit more detail. And again, this week, as always, your responses to our discussion questions will be due on Thursday by 11:59 p.m. and your two peer responses to each prompt will be due Sunday by 11:59 p.m. So let's take a look at discussion board 1, honesty and servant leadership. It says, watch this video on honesty, and here are some key distinctions. Honesty contains intellectual and relational elements. It requires a stance of responsibility toward others. It requires putting aside permission to base honesty on something objective. So we're looking for objective truth when it comes to honesty. And it requires to admitting to a higher truth. Again, linked to that idea of subjectivity versus objectivity. Okay, so in her video, Professor Gomes asked each of us to think about honesty in the context of servant leadership. For your response to this particular prompt, would love for you to reply to each item listed below for a total of 3 full paragraphs. Please also remember to cite the video according to APA. So you'll do an in-text citation as well as an end of discussion board reference for this particular resource. So number one, think of a time that you demonstrated servant leadership by being honest and speaking the truth in love to a colleague, student, or parent. Tell us about what that looked like for you. Number two, did that instance encourage relational and positive growth and trust for both of you? Why or why not? Tell us a little bit about how it went and what the outcomes were. And then number three, based on what you've told us in 1 and 2, would you do anything differently next time? So, what did you learn as an educator by going through that particular opportunity? I think for me, in my role as vice principal of academics, I've certainly had a number of opportunities where I've needed to speak the truth in love to people. And something that I think about when we think about speaking the truth in love is that that's much easier said than done, depending on your personality. If you're somebody who doesn't love conflict, it's very likely that your initial inkling would be to avoid having conversations like these. However, if we don't have conversations like these, we're not truly loving the people that we work with because we're not helping them be the best that they can be for themselves and for our organizations, right? On the other hand, some people love conflict and they have no problem going really hard into some sort of conversation of this nature. And that doesn't always tend to go very well either, because a lot of times it's not necessarily what we're saying, it's a lot more how we're saying it. And so, over the years of having these conversations really effectively, and over the years of learning from some times when I did not have these conversations effectively, here's some pointers, I guess, if you will, for what they're worth. Take them or leave them, but things that I've learned from my own experience. Number one is as I'm preparing to have a conversation with someone where I need to speak the truth in love, I always start by putting myself in their particular shoes. I think about if I'm this person, how am I going to want to hear this information presented to me? How can I frame something so that this person is going to hear it and receive it with the best possible light, right? And so once I think about that, and that varies depending on the people that we work with, right? That's why it's really important to take a relational approach to leadership and know our folks so that we can think about the best, most loving, positive way to frame something that's going to be a little bit difficult for them to hear. And once I think about that, I always want to make sure that I'm very clearly articulating for them the what, the why, and the how. When I state the what, I try to be as problem focused, solutions focused, and objective as possible. Hey, I want to talk to you because here are some things that I'm noticing about your performance. And here's why those are a little bit concerning. Then I want to make sure to tell the why. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up, A, because I want you to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be for yourself and for our ministry. And here's why this specific behavior that I'm noticing in you is a little bit problematic and we need to work on it together. And then I always try to end with the how, coming at it from a joint perspective. So, given the fact that we need to work on this and that you understand why it's really important for yourself and the ministry, our organization, how are we going to work together to support you to achieve this outcome so that the person doesn't just feel called out and left on an island alone, but rather kind of like hashtag same team approach. I'm here to work with you. How are we going to help you move forward in a way that we're doing that together? So take it or leave it for what it's worth. That's been my professional experience and some things that I've learned from the experience that help those types of conversations to go as smoothly as possible, even though they're never going to be our favorite as leaders. That's discussion board one. I'm so excited to hear about your specific situations and to engage in dialogue with you this week around those. Discussion board number two relates to developmental periods. So you'll notice in your reading this week that the textbook mentions 5 developmental periods. In this particular response, you'll choose the developmental period that best represents your student population and or grade level. In your response to the prompt, you'll identify one challenge that's typical of the developmental period of your students and one exciting or unique aspect typically associated with that period. Please be sure to include scholarly support. You can absolutely cite the textbook for this particular post. Also, want to encourage you to find a recent peer reviewed journal article using those Google Scholar tips to further strengthen your response. And so, some tips and tricks there to help you on your way with that. And then, of course, making sure to include your in-text citations that match the end of text reference as well. Okay. Um, Again, you do not have an assignment for week one, but I would love to quickly go back to week one and check out the look ahead with you that's listed there if you would like to start working ahead on your first assignment, which will be due week two, Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So back on our week one content page in the Canvas learning area, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see a look ahead. If you click open the assignment number one that's linked there, it'll bring you to the instruction sheet for this particular assignment. So what you'll be doing for this child development assignment is you'll be submitting a 2 to 3 page double-spaced typed synthesis paper that covers the following items. So 3 items below. Number one, you're going to do a personal introduction. Explain to me a little bit about your current school, such as the demographics, school culture, setting, context, those types of things. So just kind of paint a picture for me about your role in your school, as well as some important contextual information regarding your school itself. That'll help me get to know you a little bit better. Number two, you're going to choose two of the seven theories of child development covered in your textbook that you feel are most applicable to your situation, and use just 2 to 3 paragraphs to describe how you see their application to your specific classroom, or if you're not a teacher, to your specific school environment, if you work in some other area of the school. Number three, then, how developmental changes impact instruction. So, your text mentions many factors that impact a person's development and learning, including the context of their lives, both nature and nurture, common and individual developmental periods and changes, and qualitative and quantitative changes in development. Using the charts in your text, again, use 2 to 3 paragraphs to describe how the developmental changes characteristic of your student population impact the way that you design and deliver instruction or otherwise interact with students in your school. Okay. Just as a friendly reminder, capstone connection here, be sure to practice paraphrasing and work to include direct quotes only when the impact or meaning of the point is really greatly affected. Otherwise, it's great to get in the habit of reading someone else's thoughts and putting those into your own words to share with your reader. Okay. As you begin working on this assignment, I strongly encourage you to read through our rubric in the accomplished and exemplary column so you have a really strong sense of what outcome we're looking for in this particular assignment to set you up for success. And I'll go through those categories in more detail in our week 2 video. If you would like to work ahead, though, go ahead and read through those before you start working. Okay, and then bringing it back to our Christian message for the week. Again, we addressed this in our welcome video, but just want to share it with you one more time here. Ecclesiastes 4 9 through 10 tells us, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. So, again, just want to encourage you as you begin another class in your program to serve as a wonderful source of support for each other in this learning space. I'm so thankful to be able to serve as a support for you as well. And just want to encourage you to think about ways at your own sites this week that you might be able to serve as a source of encouragement, support, or even just practical collaboration for those around you. Blessings on your week. I look forward to interacting with you in our discussion boards.